getting to the Dallas market, for example, we right now have 6 million square footers either under construction or existing. 4 of those 6 are in lease conversations. So there's not going to be any million square footers available, but
these are all spec.
Yes, these are all spec. So that's why I think that, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this in Seattle, there's more of a pushback to the built-to-suit market for the bulk sites because there's nothing available.
Welcome to our Industrial Advisors podcast. We're live in Little Rock, Arkansas at IAMC. Matt and myself and Chloe Garside. It's her new last name.
Absolutely.
You got married last summer?
6 months ago.
6 months
the
ago.
last IAMC forum.
And you've moved twice since, right?
I have moved twice since then.
Yeah. So tell us, let's start there. Tell us where you're at. You're in Dallas now, and how you got there and kind of what the game plan is.
Yeah, 100%. So I moved to Dallas about a month ago. My husband got a job over there. We were in Naples, Florida for my job, just to learn as much as I could in our office down there. So when he got an offer in Dallas, it kind of just made sense for me from a career growth standpoint. So I look at it as I'm going and spreading my wings and flying in the Dallas market. So I'm focusing exclusively on the Dallas market, as well as some Houston stuff, which is really fun. So even like going through and preparing for this podcast, a lot of my ideas and thoughts are what I'm seeing in real time in Dallas, but I do feel like it's applicable all across the country since it is like a 1 billion square foot market. It's fun to say.
Yeah, and Chloe's at the Sansone Group. So what's your official title there?
So I'm a development partner.
Development partner.
Yes.
In Dallas.
Development partner in Dallas. Yeah, so how Sansone's structured, for some background. So I was an associate for about 2 years, just moved to the development partner role. And so we have development partners scattered across the country. That's how we're able to really have such a large geographic footprint. And so not having anyone in Dallas, it just kind of looked like a big hole to fill. We have a lot of guys on the East Coast from PA, New Jersey, Florida, a guy in Denver, and then myself in Dallas. So it was a good move, that's for sure.
And as a reminder, we go way back with Chloe. Chloe started at Colliers in South Carolina.
Yep.
What you were in Charleston?
Charleston.
And then talked about how you went from Colliers to where you're at now, and then we'll jump into some of the questions about development and everything going on.
It's crazy looking back because I got into the industry in such a crazy time. I started with Colliers in January 2020, right before COVID, as an intern. I mean, I remember when conference calls were like a new thing to do in March 2020 when COVID occurred. So I was doing that for a year and a half, really was able to learn the market. All my classes were online, so I was going into the Colliers office every day and just like really ingraining myself in the industry, which I look back on and I'm like, wow, I really just jumped in.
You really did.
Yeah, I really just jumped in. So I became a brokerage associate right when I graduated in May 21, which again was another crazy part in the market. I call it kind of the golden era because deals were just happening like that.
Yes.
I remember the good 45, 30-day due diligence, 15 to close, just people taking massive risks. Especially in Charleston, it wasn't historically it wasn't historically a speculative market. So it was all these national developers flooding in and so much opportunity for myself and my brokerage partner at the time. That's how we kind of fell into development. He was doing the land sourcing. I was kind of working the tenant relationships and helping him with the land sourcing. So about a year into officially being a broker, a year and a half, one of our clients recruited us to open the office for them in Charleston. That's how I fell into development, which I never thought I'd be in development, but here we are a few years later. So I was with that firm for about 2 years and then joined Sansone in 2024 as an associate, learning as much as I could about the industry, doing speculative development as well as built-to-suit development all across the country, and still fortunate enough to be able to come to conferences like IAMC, which I was inspired by you guys to get as involved as I could in IAMC. So it's been a fun ride. You've done a great
job doing that.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's great to see all the familiar faces here as well, especially as the market continues to heat up. Let's look at it that way.
Tell us a little bit about the Dallas market, because that's your new specialty.
100%. So the Dallas market, it's funny, when we decided we were moving in January, about 60 to 90 days ago, that's when the market really started to heat up on the bulk side of things. So we've seen so much bulk activity in Dallas, as well as across the country. It's been a continued trend from a development standpoint where I've heard the statistic, and I think everyone has heard the statistic of there was or is about a few months ago 80 million square feet of bulk million square footers across the country. There's an e-commerce user, as we all can imagine, that's planning to take half of them. I have fact-checked that, even though it wasn't them that made that statement. So just looking at that absorption, and there's minimal bulk buildings right now. So that's been a focus for us at Sansone Group, as well as developers in general. So for me, getting to the Dallas market, for example, we right now have 6 million square footers either under construction or existing. 4 of those 6 are in lease conversations. So there's not going to be any million square footers available.
And
but
these
it's
are
such
all
a
spec. No,
yes, these are all spec. So that's why I think that, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this in Seattle, there's more of a pushback to the built-to-suit market for the bulk sites because there's nothing available.
Right.
And from a rental rate standpoint as well, this is interesting. I was underwriting a 250,000 building in South Dallas and then looking at a 1.2 million square foot building, and the rent delta is like 50 to 75 cents, just because there's so much of the less than 300,000 square foot buildings opposed to the bulk stuff.
Yeah, that is, I think, a story in a lot of markets, right? So that 1 to 200 range, for example, in Seattle is still very soft, but there's no million footers that are, really tough to find bulk products.
Exactly. And finding the sites for the million footers right now, that's another thing. So we're seeing development just continue to spread out throughout Dallas, people going into very pioneering markets. But again, there's nothing available. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What's the perfect spec building now? How big is it? What's the clear height? What's the trailer parking?
Yeah, so specifically in Dallas, I like to stick to the 300 to 600,000 square foot cross docks.
Okay.
I think there's not many of them. I mean, it's more of an efficient product for your e-commerce user. It's a distribution market in Dallas. So I like that building. And then the 1.2 million square footers. I wouldn't say we're looking...
1.2 is the big box.
I'd say, you're like 900 to 1.2. There's kind of a interesting gap in the Dallas market where like your 700 and 800s aren't performing as well as the bulkier or kind of like traditional cross-dock product. From a trailer park standpoint, I wouldn't say that we're planning to have additional trailer parks from a design perspective, but if you have space to do it, cherry on top.
For sure.
But it's not something that we're like actively looking to add to a number of our plans. I'd say we're still sticking to the 1-2 rows of trailer parks, typical auto parks. So it's interesting compared to like a port market. I don't know if you guys are seeing, is there still a need for trailer parks?
I think like the bigger you're building, the more desire there is to have that, right? And you may not need it on every deal, but it's sure, I think if you're going to build a building that big, it's important
Cherry
to
on
have.
top.
I mean, just for longevity of the building. And where
sure.
things
I would
are
definitely
heading.
say, mostly in that 300 to 600 range, we tend to have the buildings that don't have it really sit for some time.
Really?
You don't need like a 10-acre yard. But maybe an additional trailer drop per door straight across the truck port is kind of perfect.
Yeah, having that I think is good.
100%.
What's your thoughts? So we've talked, big box. I mean, that's been really good and
Talk of the
bulk
town.
product. Yeah, like that's helpful in a lot of ways, right? Because that'll impact vacancy a lot and hopefully drive some smaller deals that'll happen. But let's talk a little bit about kind of the more shallow bay, multi-tenant product. What's your guys' take on that product?
Yeah, so it was interesting actually at an IAMC local, the one in Fort Worth, one of the municipalities brought up the need for shallow bay flex space and just saying like, everyone wants to see it. We have customers that are looking for it, service providers that are looking for it. There's a need, especially with population growth, and just think of like your servicing type industries. And so we're seeing a lot of our LP partners spinning off funds to focus on this product. And we have looked at it. We've looked at it for specific customers as well, kind of taking like a programmatic approach in terms of we're going to do X amount of buildings with you guys across the country. But it's pretty cost prohibitive, I'll say.
Yeah, it's expensive to build.
It's expensive to build because you're typically looking at like more infill located sites, which, those are expensive. Your construction costs, also expensive. You're not getting economies of scale. So I have read some articles on LinkedIn in terms of like, you don't need to build a Class A higher clear height. Like you don't need to build that type of building like you are for a bulk building. You could look at metal buildings, but we've looked at metal buildings for specific customers and the delta and cost really isn't that big. So I think it's something where you really need to find like a proactive municipality that is willing to work with you, or even a seller who's willing to work with you that isn't looking for top dollar for their site. So it's been a challenge, and it's something that I think we're all looking to figure out, but just finding kind of like the right site, the right deal. I wouldn't say Sansone Group is actively chasing those projects unless it is for a built-to-suit customer, but
Sure.
I have taken a look at some in Dallas specifically, but they've been hard.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing a lot of activity in that like shallow bay 50 or less than 50?
I mean, the less than 50 range from a vacancy standpoint is significantly lower, right? Than some of the, like the 1 to 2 range, which is like 12% in our market, right? Like the under 50 is probably 6%, right? But still the tenant activity is on the bigger stuff right now.
Yeah.
We're also seeing a lot of lower credit and defaults in that smaller size range. Yeah. And you mentioned Flex in Seattle. The last Flex property was built was 2008.
Wow.
So
Yeah, no one's built any.
No.
Yeah.
And so do you pitch the idea to developers, and how do they respond if you do?
It's not a product that we really focus on. But there's just, I would say the vacancy in Flex is what, 7 or 8%?
If that, yeah.
So there's still not a huge driver for it, but sooner or later it will happen. I think the last time something was constructed in '08, it had dropped to about 4%. So it's probably going to have to get down there to justify that. Because the rates haven't moved
to see
enough to probably to support.
That's another problem that we're seeing, is that there's not much rental rate growth in that sector, which is interesting. But I will say, like, Nashville is another market that I focus on. And Nashville is not a bulk market. You are looking at 50 to 100,000 square foot suites, and you're still tracking like north of 40 plus tenant requirements in the market. So I do think it's market specific, but I think there's a need all across the country in markets that are traditionally bulk markets they have desire. And I think the municipalities especially, like I sat down with a municipality in South Dallas and he's like, will you guys look at shallow bay Flex? And I'm like, I mean, let's talk about the story. Like let's see how we could potentially put this together. But they're almost hurting for that type of product, especially with residential growth in the nearby areas. I heard an interesting statistic from one of our LP investors we do a lot of work with, is when you're looking for a shallow bay Flex site, so their total drive time from a distribution standpoint and a servicing standpoint is about 38 minutes. So you don't want to be that far from the highway, because that's eating into your time to go out and service different household buildings, whatever it may be. So they're always looking for sites that are really well located with interstate access, less than 5 minutes, because then you still have 20 plus minutes to get to nearby households or buildings that you're potentially servicing. So it does come down to the underlying real estate as well, but
for sure. What other trends are you seeing right now?
Yeah, so I think the power thing is a good one to touch on.
Really good.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a lot at different IAMC forums, but I think the impact the data center industry and grab for power is having on industrial is something that a lot of people don't talk about. So, I mean, you think of like your users that are looking to implement automation, robotics, like they still have to get in that same queue that all the data center companies are in. So they're kind of getting the short end of the stick. And then it's also impacting seller expectations, because you're looking at a site that maybe a data center developer talked to them, or maybe their neighbor is lucky enough to have transmission lines running across it, but that's their expectation of getting that top dollar pricing. So we're having to come in and really sit them down and backtrack to like, hey, I'm sorry, your property isn't worth data center pricing. And I'm sure even tenants are having to deal with this, because it's just getting more competitive. A lot of the land in South Dallas specifically, there's a lot of data center activity, but now there's minimal sites for bulk and just let alone industrial development. So I think it's an interesting balancing act right now. And that's what's like making the industrial market a lot tighter, is because it's competitive. And even if a site's under contract with the data center developer, that doesn't help the industrial sector at all. And then another interesting point on the power side and data center side of things is in DFW, I heard a stat that there's about like 37% of the tenant requirements are data center adjacent uses, but they're still having to deal with the whole pricing glut if they're looking for a site near the data center site. So I don't know if you guys have seen a lot of that on the West Coast, but it's definitely prevalent in Dallas right now.
Seeing more and more of it for sure. So
what about the power delays, like on the sites that we're seeing? And I'd be interested to know on your perfect 1.2 million foot spec, what's the power gone from 5 years ago to now?
Yeah.
And then how is it impacting you guys? Because like sites we're selling and dealing with, the power now is the furthest thing out, even from entitlements, right?
Yeah.
So it could be 3 to 4 years to get the power, and somebody's going under contract with that. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, especially as a lot of the utilities are just so backed up with all of the projects that they're looking at. So it's like, how am I able to come in and we call it customer confidence. Like they're talking to you and they're trying to see, do they have the confidence in your ability to get this project done and commit the power to you? So every utility is different as well, but Encore, for example, I think is like 4 to 5 years backed up. And that's even if like, say you have a manufacturing project. So right now, and I've heard a lot of other landlords do it, because like your manufacturing facilities are going to look for say 5 to 10 megawatts of power. You should just get that process started from the start. To your point, you get the site under contract, like you should really be looking at the power requirements. So I think the needs are going to continue to increase though, with increased innovation, manufacturing. It's a real need and a real challenge for a lot of groups. And I even heard a story of a group that signed a lease on a building and was misled in terms of the power capacity. And so they're having to get creative with different types of generation and almost like bridge solutions right now because they're a manufacturing user. So everyone just needs to be really diligent and conscious, I think, in having those conversations.
How do you get creative with power?
So you can have like Bloom is a alternative generation, like a bridging generation technique where I can't speak into the details of how it's used, but we're using it on one of our existing data center projects in Maryland as a bridge solution. So we're still able to lease up the building. We're still able to procure the power, have the conversations with the utility. But it's I don't know where it's coming from. But
and to your point, like the power conversation isn't going anywhere, and so being creative and figuring out solutions while you're getting a building built, making sure that it's going to be there when you're up and running is going to be.
Are you guys running into those issues when you're working with tenant requements?
Yeah, I mean
all the time now.
I mean, it used to be like labor was the biggest issue. Now it's power.
Yeah.
So,
even on the small tenants, like we're looking at buildings trying to figure out in advance because you get the question so much, and it usually takes so much time to get there. Like, is the power somewhere in the park?
Yeah.
Can it be brought? How long will it take? So then, because it's daily that we're getting these questions.
It's never like an easy answer.
Never.
No,
it's always like complicated.
It's never a clear answer.
That's right.
That's a lot of the projects we're working on. You're told one thing, or the seller is told one thing, because we have a data center company that we're invested in. So we're doing these projects across the country, and you're hearing different answers from the utilities all day. And I can't imagine that it's a different conversation that a broker on behalf of their tenant is having from a manufacturing standpoint. Like, it's still the same utility, they're still having the same issues. It's a crazy time, and I like picking back up on the conversation because, to your point, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's more so just, it's not a hot trending topic right now.
Right. Exactly.
Well, the main conference is starting in 4 minutes, so we're going to jump in there, but incredible job as always. It's great to see you doing what you're doing, and it'll be a fascinating year, I think, from a development standpoint.
I'm really optimistic always, so let's keep going.
By the way, is this your third or fourth time on the podcast?
This is my IAMC.
No, total.
Oh, total and the business?
Even when you did first year in brokerage.
This is my 6th year.
On the podcast?
Oh, no.
So, no time. How many times on our podcast?
3.
3.
This is my third time.
Because I think 3 is the record. So, by the way.
3 is the record.
I don't know. You may be more than that.
I thought it was 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Yeah, 3 or 4.
You do a great job every time. So
Thank you.
Enjoy this conference. Thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.